Texas flood videos look like sudden chaos. Roads vanish, cars drift, sirens feel too late. But the sharper question is not only why the water rose, it is why so many warnings seem to arrive after the danger is already moving. Number sign hearty losts, Chesapeake Road fast escapes, get nervy. The warning signs Texas missed. Recent Texas flood videos appear to show disaster arriving almost without warning. A dry-looking road becomes a brown river. A driver hesitates for 1 second too long. Water pushes through intersections, around homes, across places that minutes earlier still looked passable. Those clips are gripping, and they have pulled large audiences. But this story is not just about dramatic flood footage. It is not only an engineering breakdown of roads, bridges, and drainage. Those things matter, but they are only part of the story. Behind every flash flood is a longer chain. Rain has to be detected, a forecast has to be interpreted, an official warning has to be created. That warning has to reach phones, sirens, local media, road signs, and people who may already be asleep, driving, working, or making decisions under pressure. Only at the very end does the warning become the thing that actually matters: human action. Do I turn around? Do I leave now? Do I wake my family? Do I stay off the road? Do I trust what this alert is telling me? A warning system can exist and still fail people at the worst moment. The message may be too broad. The phone may have no signal. The road may flood before a closure appears. A family may hear an alert but not know whether to leave, stay, or wait. Language, geography, trust, timing, and clarity can all become weak links. So the mystery is bigger than the storm. The question is not whether Texas floods can be dangerous. They can. The question is why, in so many flood stories, the danger seems to move faster than the warning can become a decision. And by the end, the most important warning may not be the one sent during the flood. It may be the one people learned to ignore long before the rain arrived. Number Humber. Why Texas floods turn so fast. To understand why a warning can feel late, we first have to understand why the water can feel instant. Texas is not one single flood environment. A storm over a coastal city, a creek outside a small town, and a low road crossing in a rural area can all create different kinds of danger. Not every community faces the same flood risk. Not every place has the same terrain, warning tools, or infrastructure. But in many flood-prone areas, several ingredients can stack together. Intense rainfall, hard surfaces that shed water quickly, drainage channels that fill faster than they appear to, dry creek beds that seem harmless until water arrives from somewhere else, roads that dip through low crossings, neighborhoods where the most dangerous water is not falling from the sky above, but moving in from higher ground nearby. The important part is this: the flood does not always begin where the person is standing. A driver may see only light rain, a neighborhood may look wet but manageable. A creek may appear low one moment, then change suddenly because heavy rain has fallen upstream, across a drainage basin, overground hidden from view. By the time that water reaches a road, the decision window may already be shrinking. That is what makes flash floods different from the slow disaster many people imagine. In a slow river flood, there may be hours, or sometimes longer, to watch water rise and respond. In a flash flood, the visible danger can be the final stage of a process that started out of sight. The rain falls, the land drains, channels collect it, roads become paths of least resistance. Then, only at the end, a person sees brown water crossing the pavement and has to decide whether to stop. Turn around, wait, or keep moving. This is not a reason to fear every storm. Most storms do not become disasters. The useful question is narrower. Are normal warning habits built for the speed of this threat? Many people are informally trained to judge risk by what they can see. If the sky is not extreme, if the phone alert sounds familiar, if the road has always been passable before, the brain files the situation as manageable. But flash flooding punishes that habit. The most important evidence may be upstream, underground, behind a bend, or already moving through a drainage system. Recent Texas flood videos have drawn attention because they show ordinary places becoming unreadable. But viral videos and thin keyword signals do not prove a definitive national trend by themselves. They show concern. They suggest an audience wants more than images of chaos. So the claim here should stay modest and exploratory. The theory this documentary is testing is simple. The central failure may not be weather prediction alone. It may be the gap between a forecast, a warning, and a person understanding what action the warning is asking for. Because if the flood can begin miles away from the person in danger, what exactly is the warning supposed to warn them about? Rain, water depth, a road closure, or the decision they need to make right now? Hashtag the alert chain. The first mistake is to imagine a flood warning as a single moment. A siren sounds, a phone buzzes, a banner appears on television. From the outside, it looks as if the system has either worked or failed in one clean instant. But a real warning is not a button, it is a chain. At the beginning, someone has to detect danger forming in the atmosphere. Rainfall has to be observed, modeled, and compared against terrain, rivers, creeks, drainage channels, and places where water is known to collect. Then an official warning has to be created. That warning has to be interpreted locally. It has to move through phones, broadcasters, weather apps, sirens, social media, road signs, emergency managers, and sometimes word of mouth. And then it has to survive the hardest step of all. It has to become a decision. This is where the Texas flood story becomes more complicated than the viral clips. The dramatic videos show the final seconds of the chain, when water is already in the street. But the system question begins much earlier. It asks how information moved before the camera started recording. The safe claim is this: weather prediction and warning performance are not the same thing. A forecast can correctly identify dangerous conditions, and a warning can still fail to change behavior at ground level. Not because one person made one obvious mistake, but because every link has its own weakness. A warning can be accurate but too broad. If an alert covers a wide area, people outside the immediate danger may decide it is not meant for them. A warning can be urgent but unclear. The phrase flash flood warning sounds serious, but it does not always tell a driver which crossing is unsafe, whether water is moving in from upstream, or whether the safest decision is to stop, turn back, stay put, or leave immediately. A warning can be sent but unseen. Phones can be silenced, signals can be weak, apps can be closed, batteries can be dead, people can be asleep. A warning can be seen but distrusted, especially if earlier alerts did not affect that person directly. And a warning can be understood perfectly but arrive at a moment when the practical choices have already narrowed. A message that says danger is coming has a different meaning before the road floods than after the road floods. Before the water arrives, it can change a plan. After the water arrives, it may only confirm what a person can already see. So when people ask why the warning came too late, there may not be one answer. In some cases, the forecast may have been difficult. In others, the official message may have been too general. In others, the local risk may have changed faster than the alert could be translated into street-level instructions. And in others, people may have received the message but not recognized it as a command to act immediately. This is not a simple blame story. It is a systems story. The radar image, the flood map, the phone notification, the siren, the road sign, the news report, the person behind the wheel are all part of the same chain. If one link weakens at the wrong moment, the whole warning can feel late. And the next problem is stranger. Sometimes the warning is technically correct, but the human brain reads it as background noise. Number seconds when warnings become noise. By the time a flood alert appears on a phone, it is entering a crowded room. It competes with text messages, app notifications, work, traffic, family decisions, weather updates from the night before. The simple fact that many people have lived through severe weather warnings that did not become dangerous at their own address. That is the plain meaning of alert fatigue. It does not mean people are careless. It means a warning system has to fight for attention in a world where attention is already overused. If someone receives repeated alerts for storms that pass north of them, or warnings that sound serious but never change their street, the next alert may feel less like an emergency and more like another interruption. Here, the distinction matters. It is factual that warning systems must compete for attention. It is also factual that broad weather alerts can cover areas where the danger is uneven. But it would be a theory, unless proven case by case, to claim that any specific person or community failed to act. They were tired of alerts. In real floods, people may not have received the message at all. They may have received it too late. They may have understood the weather risk, but not the road risk. They may have trusted the alert and still had no safe action available. This is why flood warnings are especially difficult. The phrase flash flood warning sounds urgent, but it does not always answer the question a person is actually asking. Can I cross this low road? Is the creek rising upstream? Is the water deeper than it looks? Is it safer to stay where I am or move now before the route closes? A phone alert can say danger is possible or happening, but the person on the ground needs something more specific. What decision should I make in the next few minutes? That gap between information and action is one reason recent Texas flood footage has pulled so much attention online. Viewers see water rushing across streets and understand the physical drama immediately, but the less visible drama is the communication system underneath it. The hidden question is not just why the rain fell or why the road flooded, it is why a modern warning can still arrive as words on a screen while the real threat is moving. Water through a drainage channel, a crossing, or a neighborhood. This is also the lesson behind other breakout explainers, even when the topics seem unrelated. Extreme heat stories can work because they reveal a hidden system inside daily life. Buildings, bodies, power grids, labor routines, and public health messages. AI companion stories can work for a similar reason. They turn an invisible technical system into something people suddenly feel in private, ordinary moments. Flood warnings have that same structure. The storm is visible. The system behind the storm is not. And when that hidden system becomes visible only during an emergency, it is already under pressure. Officials must choose words quickly. Platforms must deliver them cleanly. Local channels must translate them into usable meaning. Residents must decide whether the message applies to them. Drivers must judge a road that may look passable for 1 second and dangerous the next. So the warning failure story is not always a story of no warning. Often it is the more unsettling story of a warning that existed but had to pass through noise, uncertainty, human hesitation before it could become action. But even a perfect message has one final enemy. The landscape itself can move faster than bureaucracy. Number sign #HOTI. The geography problem. Even if a warning is clear, urgent, and delivered on time, it still has to fight the shape of the land. This is where Texas flooding becomes especially difficult to understand from a phone alert or a weather map. The danger is not always spread evenly across a county. It can gather in one drainage channel, one underpass, one low water crossing, or one neighborhood where rain has already fallen upstream. From a distance, the broader area may not look disastrous. At street level, the road in front of you may already be changing into something else. This is the geography problem. Rainfall can be uneven. One part of a storm may sit over a small basin while another place nearby only sees light rain. Water follows slope, pavement, ditches, creeks, culverts, and old drainage paths that most people never think about until they are suddenly carrying dangerous runoff. A person standing under a clearing sky can still be in danger if the water moving toward them started miles away. That is why flash floods can feel so unfair. The signal a person sees with their own eyes may arrive after the real decision point has already passed. This is also where the engineering angle matters, but it is not the whole story. Roads, bridges, drainage systems, gauges, signs, maintenance, land development, and alert design all interact. A road can be well built for ordinary storms and still become dangerous in a fast, localized flood. A drainage channel can work as designed until debris, intensity, or timing pushes it beyond its useful limit. A flood gauge can provide valuable information, but only for the place it measures. A road sign can warn of danger, but only if a driver sees it, believes it, has another route before the water is already across the pavement. In many emergency systems, warnings work best when the hazard is large enough, slow enough, and visible enough to track with confidence. A slow-rising river gives officials more time to monitor levels, update forecasts, and communicate a sequence of actions. Sudden urban flooding, or flash flooding in steep and fast-draining terrain, can be much harder. That does not mean forecasting is useless. It means the gap between regional prediction and street-level danger can be painfully wide. A map may show a warned area, but the most important question for a person on the ground is much narrower. Is this crossing safe right now? Is this creek still rising? Is leaving safer than staying? Is there even enough time to move? This is why the most unsettling flood footage often has a strange mismatch. The official map can look organized, colored, and rational. The ground level scene can look confusing, local, and immediate. Both can be true at the same time. The system may understand that flooding is possible, while still struggling to translate that possibility into a precise warning for one road, one turn, one family, or one driver. So the story is not simply that people failed to listen or that technology failed to predict the weather. The harder truth is that geography can turn a general warning into a very specific emergency faster than any system can comfortably explain. And this leads to the most uncomfortable possibility. The real failure may begin before the storm, in decisions that never look dramatic on camera. The failure before the flood. The most uncomfortable part of a flood warning failure is that it may begin long before the rain, not with one missed phone alert, not with one silent siren, not with one wrong turn onto a flooded road, but with quiet assumptions made in ordinary weather. Disaster footage shows the moment water takes control. Preparedness is harder to film. It is a meeting about which roads close first. It is a map that tells residents whether their street is in a floodplain and whether that phrase means anything practical to them. It is a family deciding, before storm season, which route they would take if the obvious road is blocked. It is a local warning system being tested often enough that people know what the sound or message means. It is public education repeated so many times that, when the alert finally arrives, the decision has already been rehearsed. The fact is simple. A warning is only useful if people can understand it and act on it in time. The more debated question is why that so often becomes difficult. One theory is that warning system failure is not usually a single dramatic breakdown. It is a slow accumulation of planning gaps, aging assumptions, uneven local resources, confusing risk language, and public complacency. None of those pieces has to look catastrophic by itself, but when fast water enters the system, every weak link is tested at once. This is not a conspiracy story. It is also not a clean blame story, where one person failed to push one button. In many flood emergencies, technology, government process, infrastructure, weather, and human behavior are all moving at different speeds. Forecasts may improve faster than road closures. Phone alerts may travel faster than trust. Officials may understand the risk before residents understand what action is expected. Residents may see the warning only after the safest choice has already narrowed. That is why the viral videos feel so unsettling. They show water arriving in minutes, but the deeper failure may have been building for years in habits, maps, drills, signs, and messages nobody thinks about until the storm makes them urgent. So what would a better warning actually look like? And why is it so hard to build? Number sign. What a better warning has to do. A better warning is not just louder, it is more useful. It tells people what is happening, where it matters, what action is expected, and how little time may be left. It does not only say that flooding is possible, it helps translate the threat into a decision. For a driver, that might mean clear road closure information before the road is underwater. For a household, it might mean knowing whether staying put is safer than leaving. For a community, it might mean local messages that match the actual geography of creeks, crossings, drainage channels, and neighborhoods. The factual challenge is that this is hard. Emergency communication has to be fast, accurate, local, understandable, and trusted, all at once. If a message is too broad, people may tune it out. If it is too narrow, it may miss someone in danger. If it is too cautious, people may not act. If it is too alarming, trust may erode when the worst does not happen at every address. That is the balance every warning system is trying to hold. And in flash flooding, the clock is unforgiving. The theory, again, is that Texas flood warnings became a failure story not because warning systems do nothing, because the full system is asked to perform a nearly impossible translation under pressure. It must translate radar into risk, risk into language, language into trust, trust into action, and action into movement before the water takes away the options. That is a much harder job than sending an alert. It is also why the most important improvements may not look dramatic. Better flood maps, clearer local language, more trusted communication channels, stronger road closure routines, repeated public education, warning messages that tell people what to do, not just what category of weather is happening. None of these changes would make flash floods harmless. No system can remove all risk from fast water, and without verified evidence from a specific event, it would be wrong to claim that one measure would have prevented one outcome. But as a general principle, warning systems become stronger when they are designed around decisions, not just information. Because the person in danger does not experience a flood as a forecast model, they experience it as a road, a door, a phone, a sound, a choice, and a few minutes that may not come back. Number sign Hagi Brett Refref News, number sign Hunsmat at Egan Compressionland. Powers priorities added hunger coyote. Swen was often seen as something instantly understandable, water taking over ordinary life, but the warning system failure story is more unsettling because it asks us to look at what happened before the water filled the frame. Did the forecast become a warning? Did the warning become a clear message? Did the message reach the right people? Did they trust it? Did they know what to do? Did the geography give them enough time to act? Those questions do not produce the same dramatic images as a flooded street, but they may matter. The safest conclusion is not that every mystery has been solved, but that the evidence deserves a careful second look.